going, but I am pretty sure Howard is saying we are going to control this in a minute. We are going to make sure that we have a great show for you today. Anyhow, folks, we are going to have a great show for you today. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Okay, I think I still hear music. Is that true? I don't know. Anyhow, what is the show going to be about today? We are going to have a great show today. Okay. Howard. Really? Okay, let's see. We are still getting together here with KPFT 90.1 FM. Tell you have nothing. Let's go ahead and bear with me 1 second. Let's go ahead and see what's going on here. Do you hear me now? Do you hear me now? Folks. All right. Welcome to Politics Done Right. Welcome to Politics Done Right. This is Egberto Willies, your host. How's everybody doing today? We are going to have a great show for you today. What are we going to talk about, folks? We are going to talk about a lot. Anyhow, title of the show today is 15-year-old commentary on GOP trans attack. Columnist on Trump's verdict. He's a loser. A 15-year-old girl, Miss Hanson, visited a political club and unleashed on the anti-trans GOP with some inconvenient truths. Bloomberg columnist slammed Trump as a loser and castigated his political sycophants. That is some of the stories we're going to cover here. But of course, I want to hear from you. I want to hear your voice. 713-526-5738 is the number. 713-526-5738. I would love to hear from you early today, folks, if at all possible. Why? Because, at the end, you all come in and then I have to cut you and go to the other person, etc., because the rush come in at the end. So please, let's start early. 713-526-5738. We have a lot to cover. There's one other thing that I want to mention before. As you know, we are in fund drive mode. And I'm not just going to be talking to you about, hey, guys, please call 713-526-5738 and hit option number 1. I want you to hit option number 2 and number 1. I want to talk to you when you hit number 2, but I want to ask you so kindly to give when you hit number 1. Let me tell you, folks, you have many ways to access this program. You, of course, on air, you can click on, you go to 90.1 FM, the regular on air dial. Turn your dial to 90.1 FM. You can also tune in via TuneIn, that application that gives you the ability to stream us. You get that at the Apple Store, tune in at the Apple Store, or tune in at the Android Store. You can also listen to us at KPFT, or rather, Facebook.com/KPFT Houston. You actually see the video of what we're doing, and all those clips that you hear me play, you can also see the video of those clips as I play them. So we are both on air as well as on video. New way of communicating to everybody who wants to see things in real time. We're there for you. You can also watch us on YouTube by simply going to politicsdoneright.tv. politicsdoneright.tv. Please remember, while I'm decidedly progressive, I believe in engaging, listening, and learning from everyone, irrespective of their political ideology. You will never get disrespected on this program. I believe in civil coexistence, and I mean that from the depths of my heart. So please, folks, give us a call at 713-526-5738. I want to play a clip from and the sound is not the best because we did it in a restaurant, but it's this young 15-year-old young lady actually personalizing what's going on with the legislature and trans movement. You may not be interested in these movements, etc. It may not concern you as you see it. But when you listen and you see a 15-year-old addressing something that adults are just having their way with, doing all the wrong things with, you have to ask the question, who are you serving? Are you just serving your ideological philosophy, or you are serving the people who depend on you doing the right thing? Again, the audio for this one is not the best. Last night I cleaned it up the best I could to take out some background noises that made it a bit tinny at points. But I think her speech from a 15-year-old, remember this is a 15-year-old in high school talking about what she has gone through or what her friends have gone through and the fear that they have of what's happening in Austin with our legislature. So I'm going to bring it up this way. The president of the Humble area Democrat, John Cotter, asked me to visit with them to broadcast their main program. They invited Dr. Nancy Beck Young to discuss the similarity of the Jan 6 and the occurrences in 1940. In other words, the insurrection on the 6th looked like 1940 Germany. Nancy Beck Young, the chair of the Department of History and associate director of the University of Houston Center for Public History, was selected as a political expert featured in several episodes of Rachel Maddow's new podcast, Ultra. After the professor spoke, John said he received an email from a young student who wanted to speak to the group. 15-year-old Miss Hanson walked to the front of the room and spoke about her trans friends and the pain and suffering the Republican Party policies are causing them. What made me happy about this speech, if there was something to make you happy about this speech, was the age of Miss Hanson. She chose to engage at an early age. She knows her subject. My only question to her was, how can we clone you? How can we clone her? If we can, there is still hope for our democracy. It is her generation that will be making the decision. And knowing that our Gen Zs are coming of age and taking no prisoners, that is kind of refreshing. You know, it's refreshing to see a lot of these younger kids engaging like never before. And I sat there and I listened to her and I listened to her and I listened to her and I said, wow. That is what we want. Anyhow, I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
I got an email the other day. A very nice email from a young lady. She's a freshman at Atascocita High School. Wow. And she asked to come and talk to everybody here today.
All right.
She's going to talk a little bit about what's going on at the Texas legislature and the awful bills that are affecting the trans community. So I want to introduce Lady Hanson. She's a freshman at Atascocita.
Hi. So, as you may have heard, last week, the Democrats stopped the bill to prohibit trans youth from getting, gender-affirming care and hormones and all of that. But, we've seen it before, Republicans are going to keep pushing, that bill over and over and over again until they find a way to just, hurt and break people down even more. So, I thought, it would be important to see, not just, older people, but also, people that this is actually affecting. A bunch of my friends, one of my closest friends, his name is Aaron, he's the sweetest guy ever, he's trans, and he's on hormones right now, and if the bill gets passed that they'll slowly start weaning him off, what's that going to do to him? Because 56% of trans youth have attempted suicide. 86% of trans youth have had suicide with ideation, and it's even higher in states that are actively trying to ban activities and things that would help transgender youth feel more comfortable in themselves. In Texas, it's almost 90% for people who have felt suicidal ideation, and then it's 60% for actually attempting suicide. And that's just, they claim to want to protect kids from the grooming that's going on, and then they just want kids to kill themselves. And that's, That's not good. A study from Stanford University in 2015 discovered that 40% of all trans people who had started hormones and puberty blockers in their adolescence, they had less risk for suicide, substance abuse, mental health issues in general than people who had to start later in life. So if they really want to protect kids, as they're saying, and their whole idea that you can get turned trans because people will support you. Teachers will call you by your preferred name and use your preferred pronouns. The fact that they think that that is going to turn kids trans and make them mutilate themselves is not true at all. You can't even get sexist reassignation surgery until you are 18. And most people have a sense of their gender identity by age 2. So it's not like people just wake up one day and they're like, oh, guess what? My teacher supports trans people, so that means I'm trans. That's not at all what happens. And so the fact that people think that you can get groomed into thinking that you're one way or another, that's absolutely not true. You can't, it's just stupid. And I just, my boyfriend of almost 5 months, we were best friends before that, he's trans too. His therapist has said multiple times that his mental health would be so much better if he was able to start hormones. But because of these laws, he might not be able to until he's 18, which that's almost 3 years. And so who knows what could happen in 3 years. People who are struggling with their mental health because they're not able to truly be themselves, they could hurt themselves within those 3 years. My friends could die, my boyfriend could die because people don't seem to care. Because it's all protect kids until it's a kid of color, it's a trans kid, it's a queer kid. Nobody cares unless they're a way for them to fit their ideology and their just messed up view of the world.
I tell you, I was there in person as she was giving this talk, and she took a lot of questions and answers. She had a question and answer session, and people who just didn't understand or didn't know things learned a lot from this young woman, 15 years old. Like I said, I was just impressed that she could call bill numbers and talk about calling senators and comment. Today, where many adults don't take the political responsibility to ensure that Austin works well, that DC works well. Just seeing some of these younger people in high school, in junior high school, do the work, for me, it was like saying, wow, I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be okay. In this case, it's a trans issue. I've ran up against 15 and 16-year-olds talking about the debt and all these about student debt. I'm so very impressed with some of the younger folks who are now taking that position of, you know what? You guys hadn't done all that well after all. Maybe it's time for us to really, really start engaging. And just watching these kids engage, for me, was it was a blessing to me. 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Hit the number 1 to contribute to our program, to our station via this program. Click the number 2 if you want to say something on air. Please feel free. Give us a call early. Please don't wait till it's too late to give us a call. Folks, we are in fund drive mode. And I'd like to ask you to please, I must admit, yesterday we didn't make we didn't make our, we have to raise $250 a day for this program, for this hour, for this program. And yesterday we just didn't do it. We did very, very, very little. So I'm now playing catch up. So I ask you to call 713-526-5738, extension number 1, or please go to kpft.org and contribute however much you can to support this program on KPFT. Remember, all of your contributions, it doesn't go to me. I'm just a volunteer here with the program. It goes to make sure that KPFT is alive and well. 713-526-5738, extension numero dos, in extension number 1 to contribute, extension number 2 to be on air, 713-526-5738, or please go to kpft.org. Please remember to select Politics Done Right from the drop-down menu for the program that you're supporting. I have a screen up right now that as soon as somebody who contributes comes on, I'll call out your first name, full name, or whatever you want me to call out to say thank you so kindly. 713-526-5738, or hit number 713-526-5738. Hit the number 1 to contribute, number 2 to speak on air, and or go to kpft.org and remember select our show. Now, if you give, you can give it any amount, a $40 contribution, and by the way, you can spread all of this out on a monthly basis. $40 contribution gives you the opportunity to vote in not only on our local, what occurs at our local station, but nationally on the Pacifica Network nationally, which has 5 flagship stations and hundreds of affiliate stations. You get to be a part of that. If you give $100, that also applies, and at the same time, you can get the Politics Done Right T-shirt with the KPFT logo on it. Alternatively, I just threw this out a few days ago, and a couple of folks took advantage of it. And I say as follows: if you give $250, I'll take you out, buy you coffee, sit down and talk whatever you want to talk for some time. Because I just, we just have to try to find a good way, an interesting way to support this program, support this station, make sure we get what needs to be done. We have a lot more program today, but please call 713-526-5738, hit extension number 2 to come on air, extension number 1 to contribute, or go to kpft.org. And put however much you want, whatever gifts you want, and you hit and select Politics Done Right as the show you're supporting. In the studio with us today, El Señor Reynolds. How are you doing? Sir? Well, maybe he's not
doing okay.
You're doing okay. You're doing your key. I was waiting on you to say the phrase that you always say, and that is keeping the tin cans together.
The tin cans and strings seem to be holding up this morning, so I guess
yes.
we're all right.
And I hope Jack is doing just fine. They're handling the phones that are not yet ringing.
Yes, Jack is over here, and he's getting ready to come over to the microphone. I was just sitting here thinking about the transgender thing. What the hell business is it of legislators what we do?
I have no idea.
Would somebody please tell me just why they're getting involved in this? It's none of their business. Like,
exactly.
Look, just butt out. We're not harming people. The transgender folks generally are not harming people. They're not going around stealing things and shooting people. Why the hell do we even care? Let them do their thing. That's what they do. It's not politics. It's not something the government should get involved in. Look, there's, just tons of other things that they can be doing with their time, but they're wasting it on this garbage. And if you don't tell your state representative this and say, get back to work on something that makes some sense instead of this trash, then we're going to vote you out. How would you like that? You won't have a job. So, and that's my 2 cents.
I think as soon as they realize that is going to be their reality, but we have to make it reality. And that's the 15-year-old kid who spoke yesterday. That is what was so impressive to me. She decided that is what and they can't vote yet, but they sure can influence the 18-year-olds that are going to be able to vote.
Well, they will be able to, and they're going to remember and they go, oh yeah, this is the representative we need to get rid of. Because they're sticking their nose in places where it doesn't belong.
Exactly. Exactly.
So anyway, Jack had some comments he wanted to make this morning too, Egberto, if you like.
Talk to me, Jack.
Good morning, Egberto. It's
good morning, sir. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm great. I loved your story this morning on Miss Hanson. You know, out of the mouth of babes come the most honest truths that I can see. I love and in full support of these young mature teens becoming aware of the world around them and the voice they use to call out the injustices they see. Bravo. I say bravo. It would be interesting to host a forum or convention of these young activists. They have the mindset that's unclouded by the propaganda and lies the mainstream media puts out. They go to different sources to get their media. You know, they talk to each other. Uh, you know, some of the adults should do more of this themselves. Their minds are open and beautiful. I don't think we need to clone them. We just need to support them, uh, nurture them, you know, watch them grow. And I give the parents of these children, of these teens, A++ on not clouding their brains with prejudice and bigotry. You know, I love it when a teen schools a bureaucrat or a politician. You know, lack of humility ends when a child schools a parent and forces them to get humble with their opinions. You know, Miss Hanson, Greta Thunberg, I stand and applaud you.
You know that Jack, that's why I ended the segment in the newsletter for this story. I ended it and I said it is her generation that will be making the decision, and knowing that our Gen Zs are coming of age and taking no prisoners is refreshing. Some people look at these youngsters challenging as some sort of an affront. I look at it as a learning opportunity. And I think if more of us do that, yeah, we have to give guidance to young youth. I needed guidance for a very long time. Hell, I still need guidance, right? But just seeing them bring a point of view and show their humanity among their fellow person it's just great. It's something we can learn if we can exhibit the humanity many of our 15-year-olds are already doing. We would be fine, Jack. Thank you very much. Anything else you want to say real quick, Jack, before I go to the other subject?
I had one going, but it kind of flew away, so I'll leave that.
Well, this is our show. This is our program, including the audience that's listening right now. This is our program. So if you have something to say, thank you, Jack. Please go ahead and call 713-526-5738. Extension number 2 if you want to be on air. Extension number 1 to contribute to keep this program on air. 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to contribute. Please also consider contributing at kpft.org, kpft.org, and provide whatever you can. We have $100 will get you that T-shirt, the Politics Done Right T-shirt with the KPFT logo on it. You can also, for $250, I'll take you for some coffee, and we can sit down and shoot the breeze. Talk about the politics you want to talk about. Talk about things that you would like for me to put on air. Hell, maybe we'll do a little video together where we put it not only on air but also on all the other channels where we're at. Because again, my contention is that our politics belong to us all. Some people think some people have more rights to the politics than others. The say of some are worth more than the other. That's not where I come from. Where I come from is that we all have value and we all should be listened to. We all should be engaged. So please go to kpft.org and contribute whatever you can. There are a lot of other gifts out there that you can choose from as well. kpft.org or call 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to donate, extension number 2 to call in. I'd love to hear some of your voices on air right now. Going to the second subject, and it goes as follows. Bloomberg columnist on Trump's verdict. He's a loser, is what he said. Bloomberg's opinion columnist Tim O'Brien did not mince his words. He pointed out that Donald Trump is a loser. He said that now that a jury of his peers has looked at the allegations and ruled against him, it makes his machinations moot. In other words, Trump goes out there, she's lying, all of that. Well, you know what? We had a jury. And while juries don't necessarily always get it right, when you have this sort of unanimity, I tell you, this was pretty severe on Trump's side. So nothing he says right now will correct. And for those out there who are still holding firm to believe that this guy walks on water, to believe that this guy did something for our country, to believe that this guy would somehow make the have a better economy than what Biden or anybody else has. I hope you understand what you're doing. There are too many people out there that for spite, for ideology, for saying I am a Republican or I'm a conservative or I'm this or whatever, you just cling on to somebody like Donald Trump. Deep inside, deep inside, the guy's a charlatan. The guy is lying to you. The guy doesn't mean well. The guy isn't even ability. All these things. But sometimes, the way we are, it's like just because we can't go back on all the bad decisions we've made, the gullibility that we've had, we decide that we can't. Well, I'm going to tell you something from a personal standpoint. I've been gullible many a times in my life. I've been wrong many a times in my life. And the most refreshing thing that one can, the most refreshing place one can get to is when one realizes, and I'm talking from experience, to come out and say, God, I was wrong. I am going to do better. I am going to change. What that does for one's soul, for one's humanity, you would not imagine. So to which I tell all folks who listen to the program, folks who are here, I always say the one thing. It's not, there's no shame in having made the wrong decision. There isn't any shame in having voted incorrectly. There's no shame there. The shame is after realizing you've made a mistake for the sake of egotism, for the sake of not wanting to say I screwed up, to keep doing the wrong thing. And too often in America, that's where too many of us are. We just can't say I was wrong, or I just screwed up, or I was gullible. I have admitted that on air and elsewhere. I was ignorant 3 decades ago or a little bit more on the LGBTQ issue. I was ignorant. I was wrong several years ago on my chauvinism, my sexism, and I made the decision to change and do the right thing and change my voting patterns accordingly as well, right? And you know how refreshing it feels when one can go out and shout to the world, hey, I was wrong, man, but man, I see the light. It was just like after getting the surgery on my eyes, I could see there's no more clouds. I can see the happiness that comes from that. And the humility as well that comes with that. Folks, it ain't hard to do that. But anyway, so going back, Bloomberg columnist, I love the way he expressed himself on Trump here. I want you to listen to this, and then, as usual, we'll take it on the other side.
He is a loser in this case. I don't think he feels any shame or regret. He's incapable of that. He's a deeply damaged man who doesn't feel regret, but he is a loser here. And there's a jury verdict hanging over this. It's no longer someone else's allegations. It's no longer someone else's claims. It's a court case in which he was found guilty as charged.
He's a loser here, just like he was in the last presidential election. And the question is, Tim, are Republicans starting to realize that? I want to share some voices that we heard from today, Republicans on the Hill, their reaction. Yeah. Watch this.
So what's your reaction to President Trump being found liable in the Eugene Carroll case?
I hope the jury of the American people reach the same conclusion about Donald Trump. He just is not suited to be president of the United States.
Senator Risch, can I ask you about this news about Donald Trump being indicted, or charged? If you're going to throw support behind a 2024 presidential candidate, does this verdict reached today have any impact on that decision?
It doesn't. I'm going to stay neutral.
I think it's a factor that gets to his electability. It's not a disqualifier, to Manu's point, at this point, but it's certainly not a check in the plus column.
Does it seem, I know I've asked this before, I know there's been countless scandals and I've said, are Republicans going to turn on him? And that hasn't been the case. But does it seem like some Republicans could realize that this verdict is not ideal for a 2024 candidate?
Well, Republicans like Mitt Romney, but the fact is that
Mitt Romney's always felt this
yes,
way.
and my point is that Lindsey Graham came out in defense of him. I think most Republicans will say Donald Trump was unfairly accused. And he's being unfairly targeted because he's trying to take down the administrative state, and he's looking after the interests of Americans in the heartland, and these are just libs out to get him. But the reality of it is the party of law and order is making excuses for one of the most criminally negligent person to ever occupy the White House. And they don't have the integrity or courage to stand up with him or against him because he still has a sway over about 30% of the Republican base. And that makes him a power play in the primaries, but it doesn't get him a national win as president. And that's the bind the Republicans are in. They don't want to go against him because the political reality is difficult for them in the primaries.
That is so true. They don't want to go against him because of the primaries. Why about, you know what I sit back and say all of the times? Why is it that these guys aren't leading, right? In other words, a lot of these Republican candidates, these Republicans, politicians, they know better. They know that it's not only that Trump is toxic, they know that he's bad for the country. They know all these things. But Trump has usurped, what Trump has done is he's done the back way and gone directly to his audience, right? And instead of these people leading, instead of these people saying, let's go ahead and take a leadership role in informing our constituency, what they do is the easiest thing, and that is, well, all the people, they like Trump. I am not going to take the risk and speak out against Trump because they're going to get mad at me. And if they get mad at me, I lose. No courage. Leadership requires you sometimes to take the spears, and you're so better rewarded after folks say, "Oh, he is a leader. He was able to do this before we did, because he saw the light before we did." We definitely want him leading, and I think that is where folks believe it or not, super conservative Liz Cheney and others, I think that is where people like her are going to create the rebirth of their party at some time. Trump isn't going to live forever. Trumpism isn't going to live forever. We had this Red Scare before during the McCarthy era. For the younger younger listeners, you probably never heard the word the McCarthyism, or when McCarthy wasn't had just about the entire nation scared to talk to each other, talk about each other, or anything. We could be right there again for a while, unless those people who should be leaders act like leaders, be the leaders. That's what we need right now. Somebody like Cheney, who I disagree with, Liz Cheney, who I disagree with ideologically, almost 100% ideologically. But the fact is, she showed some maturity and did what was necessary, along with several other good Republicans. I don't agree with their policies, but they've done the right thing in breaking from somebody that doesn't mean well for the country. I have one more subject to cover, but before I do that, I want to start challenging folks to give the program a call, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. All lines are open. All lines are open right now, 713-526-5738. Hit extension number 1 to support the show. Hit extension number 2 to be on air. Please go to kpft.org. Again, that is kpft.org to support the program as well. Hit the donate button and the first option in the donate button. Go ahead and let us know what you want, what gifts you want, etc. Please be sure to select Politics Done Right as the program you're selecting. We cannot do this without you. Now, for those of you that are listening, just waking up, just chiming into the show as I'm seeing right now, please, we're given as we're pitching to ask you to support the show, as we're in a 3-week fund drive in which the first week and change is over. As we are pitching here for the fund drive, I know people get tired of hearing folks say, "Oh, please call 713-526-5738 and donate." But the reality is, if you're hearing this station over the air, that's a 100,000 watt transmitter. That takes a lot of electricity, which we have to pay on a monthly basis. There's a room, the control room that has all our equipment, has to be air conditioned. We have to pay all our taxes, pay on the buildings, and we can't do that without your support. We are all volunteers here. This host is a volunteer every day, 5 days a week. So all we ask for is to call 713-526-5738, hit extension 1, or go to kpft.org, kpft.org. Please remember to select Politics Done Right as a program. Howard, come on in, my dear brother.
Hey, Egberto. I just wanted to go ahead and add to your pitches here. Our Mr. McKinney has done it again. The Houston Hour comes in on Friday night at 6 o'clock. He has offered us the VIP bus tour, the VIP Houston History Bus Tour and KPFT VIP Tour. The package includes listeners who donate $75 a piece at kpft.org will get a pass for a 1.5 VIP hour to the historic Herman Park Museum District. And this is going to be really cool. It's an open air bus, which is really kind of cool. And the pass is good for 1 year. You can be used once a month tours and a whole lot more. You can find out all that information at kpft.org, but I suggest that you go there with the intent of joining Mr. McKinney and the bus tour and supporting KPFT. And that's my 2 cents again.
That's not 2 cents, man. That's 7,500 cents, man.
Oh, 70.
No. What? 75,000 cents. Anyhow.
Yeah.
Anyway, folks, give us a call, 713-526-5738. In addition to what the Mr. Wonderful just said, that's Howard we're talking about, El Señor Wonderful. For $100, you can get the Politics Done Right T-shirt with the KPFT logo on it. Again, that is for $100. And I just lost my mic. What just happened there? Anyway, for $100, you can get the T-shirt for. And by the way, you don't have to pay this all at once. If you are, you can say I'm going to do this over a few months or whatever. So again, for the T-shirt, $100 contribution gets you the T-shirt, the Politics Done Right T-shirt with the logo, as well. For $40 contribution, makes you a voting member of the Pacifica Network, which means you have a say in what occurs not only here at the KPFT 90.1, but through the entire Pacifica Network, which consists of 5 flagship stations, huge stations around the country in LA, Berkeley, Texas, here in Houston, Washington, D.C., and New York, as well as our hundreds of affiliates around the entire country. So please give us a call at 713-526-5738. Hit extension number 1 to contribute. Extension number 2 to be on air. Do remember as well, folks, that if you go to kpft.org and select donate, the option 1 or the first option, you can go ahead and pull down menu. Just make sure to select Politics Done Right as a show you're supporting. Tell us how much you want to contribute, what gifts you want out of there. And by the way, if I will see if you give 250 or more, and if you do so, then of course I will say, hey, when do you want to go get your coffee con el señor Egberto? I will definitely take you out for some coffee. We can have a chat and do whatever that one is for the contribution of $250 as well. We have the bricks. You can you have the option of getting a brick on the walkway. And let me put that on the screen for you. You can get the brick if anybody watching at facebook.com/KPFT Houston or on politicsdoneright.tv. You can see what the brick with your insignia looks like. You can go ahead and for those who are given $25 a month, that you get a 4x8 brick. For those who are given $50 a month, you get an 8x8 brick. And think about this insignia inside, placed on at KPFT forever, is something that says I supported public community radio. With my contribution, I supported that. So there are a lot of ways to support. You want to give $5 a month, give $5 a month. If you want to give $10 a month, we love sustainers, and the reason why is it gives us a steadier cash flow to know what we can do. Can we go ahead and buy this equipment? Can we go ahead and get this service? Because we know we have X amount of dollars coming in. Folks, let me tell you something. Right now, many of you pay for your cable service. That cable service may cost you, I don't know, $75 a month. It may cost you $100 a month. I'm paying for YouTube TV. That's a cable service I use. It's not cable, it's really YouTube TV. It's a streaming service. I pay, $80, close to $80 a month. I think it's 72 something per month. And, most of the stations I don't listen to, and some of the stations I am paying to be misinformed. I'm paying to be ill-informed. Here you are responsible for a station, KPFT 90.1 FM, and the entire network. And we're asking you to just provide a little bit. Isn't it worth a little bit to hear the truth? Isn't it worth a little bit to have a station that it's not going to be there misinforming a whole ton of people, but it's going to be out there trying to make a difference? As you can see, personally, my KPFT work doesn't end here at KPFT at 6 in the morning, 6 to 7 in the mornings. It means going out there in society. It means getting folks like Miss Hanson, who had a story to tell, putting her on air. We likely encouraged a few other young people who thought they didn't have a voice, or they wouldn't even be on a station that had hundreds of thousands of listeners that listen to them, a network that gives them the ability to do something, to be a part. For the person who just called into the studio, please feel free to call again. Sometimes we make mistakes and drop a call, or sometimes the system drops a call. So if you called, just give us a call back again, 713-526-5738, extension number 2 to speak on air, extension number 1 to contribute. Again, I ask you so kindly to as well, or alternatively, go to kpft.org and hit the donate button, click whatever on the top and select Politics Done Right as the program you're wanting to support. As soon as I get one of a notice that says you've contributed with your name, I'll be calling your name out on air to give you a national thank you. Again, folks, going back to what I was talking about as far as us currently paying for services from the cable company, from the corporatocracy, from the corporation, why not invest in something that you really have a say on? This is a program you do. This is a program you can call in and make a difference. This is a program that is going to go ahead and do the research about what's going on in our current body politics, things that affect you. This is a program that's going to make you aware of things that you likely many times had not been aware of before. Please give us a call, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738, extension 1 to donate, extension 2 for support. Reason I repeat the numbers all the time, folks, is that people come and go on the radio, and that's just the nature of this business. Okay, I'm going to go to the next subject with the expectation, with the hope, with the belief that people are going to call in and contribute to the program, or going to go to kpft.org and provide the support. All right. Debt ceiling hostage taking must stop. Josh Bivens and Samantha Sanders of the Economic Policy Institute laid out why. The Biden administration must not succumb to the Republican hostage taking to raise the debt ceiling. It's in 2 weeks, folks. In about 2 weeks or so, a little over 2 weeks, we will have to decide if we're going to cave to the terrorists in Congress or if we're going to use the real options that we have. And the story goes as follows. Recent reports indicate that the debt limit X date could come as early as June 1st. On this X date, the U.S. Treasury will no longer have enough cash in its accounts at the Federal Reserve to meet all the legal spending obligations legislated by Congress. These obligations include paying holders of U.S. Treasury debt, Social Security checks, and reimbursements to doctors treating patients covered by Medicare and Medicaid. The normal way of dealing with such a cash shortfall, selling new debt issues, and depositing the proceeds into the Treasury account, is exactly what the debt limit will make impossible on that date. So let me break for a second. So while you are there handing it to the libs, not what you're doing really, handing it to those people, we are going to force them to make these cuts. Understand what you're doing. What the hostage takers in Congress are doing, they're not doing something that is fiscally responsible. They are giving you two impossible choices. And here are the choices they are offering you, folks. They are saying either cut, meaning either keep spending levels at the 2022 levels, meaning don't raise any more money. Just keep it where it's at right now. Okay? And they want to make sure that their constituency understand it's not a cut, people. We can live within our means. After all, don't you live within yours? Can you just spend more money every year? Actually, you do. They don't tell you how, but you do. No, it is a cut. There are two factors that they don't tell you about when they say keep it at the 2022 levels. They don't count inflation, which means if you are receiving Social Security, you get a cost of living increased, right? You get a cost of living increased because the milk, the cheese, the eggs, the butter, the bread costs you some more. And if they keep the money exactly at the level that you're getting today, it means you eat less tomorrow. It means more of your money goes toward electricity. And it's not that you eat less just because food has gone up. You eat less because your electricity has gone up, your rent has gone up, your parking has gone up, everything has gone up. And what they're saying to you is, no, it's not a cut. We are just saying freeze spending at where it is right now. If the X date comes and nothing is done except the federal government fails to fulfill its spending obligations, economic calamity will ensue. People who depend on programs like Social Security and food stamps will suffer, and the spillover effects on the larger economy would certainly cause a recession, and a truly horrible one if the stalemate lasted for any significant amount of time. And how do they suggest we deal with the irresponsible intransigence of these terrorists in Congress? Some defenders of the debt limit claim that it is good because it forces Congress to reflect on the nation's fiscal trajectory. The former Trump administration budget director Mick Mulvaney made this claim about how the debt limit should be treated. The debt ceiling is really that buzzer that goes off when your battery is busted in your smoke alarm. It always goes off at an inconvenient time. It's always a pain to change it, but you always have to do it. I love when they make analogies that make absolutely no sense. Analogies that make absolutely no sense. Again, as I explained, my brothers and sisters, what really occurs here is more people get onto Social Security every year because we're still ramping the baby boomers. We're still not at the peak. So more people are getting Social Security every year. More people are getting these different services that they've earned every year, which means the budget for those services goes up every year. And if they do not go up every year, those people that are currently in the system will have to get less. As an example, if there are 1,000 people getting Social Security today and each of those 1,000 people get $100, that is what? $100,000. If 100 more people come on every year, let's say 1,100 people get on now, it means that if you keep the budget frozen as the Republicans would like you to do right now, what it means is that $100,000, instead of being split among 1,000 people, it is now being split among 1,100 people, which means then that your budget, your amount of money getting from Social Security would be forced downward. Above and beyond that, if eggs cost you more, if these different products cost you more, guess what? You also get you have less money coming in from your Social Security check that you earn, and you have less money to buy the eggs that cost more. People, it sounds good. The rhetoric always sounds good. Fiscally responsible. Yeah. Fiscally responsible at the expense of those who least can afford it. But you never have a problem every year that you are in power to claim we are the tax, the people who are going to cut your taxes. Remember what cutting taxes means, right? And for the wealthy person, let me tell you what cutting taxes means, because a lot of people don't get it. You hear the debt in some form of abstraction. You hear that we owe money as some form of abstractness. But here's the reality. That person who gets a tax cut right now, the wealthy people who gets the tax cuts, because the poor folk don't get tax cuts. The middle class don't get tax cut because that money is generally eaten up in something else, your healthcare costs or whatever. They don't get tax cuts. The rich people do. And then when they get the tax cut, guess what they do, folks? That tax cut comes at the expense of having to borrow more money to cover what the tax cut did, right? Because again, we have to cover that money. So we borrow money. And who do we borrow the money from? We borrow the money from the rich folks. And who are those rich folks again? Those are the rich folks we gave the tax cuts to. So we give them a tax cut and they loan us back the money that they didn't pay us in the first place. And on top of that money they didn't pay us in the first place, they get interest on the money they loan back to us. So we pay every year over $500 billion just to these rich people who loan us the money because we didn't have enough, because we gave them huge tax cuts. Right? We don't charge them all. We don't charge all of their money for Social Security. We don't charge them. Well, we charge most of your money on Medicare, but Medicare is a very small portion. I want folks to understand the con. Yesterday, I gave you a part of the con from the private sector, what the bankers do with Patrick LaValle, who is a director in Hollywood. But the con occurs every day on us. And for those of us who are sitting down there and say, we want those tax cuts, you're not getting it. Because the tax cuts that you get is generally at the expense of some higher costs elsewhere. And the people who benefit are the rich. Like I said, they get it many times. They get tax cuts, then they get favorable treatment. Those of them who owns a lot of stocks, right? They get all these preferential treatments for owning stock, and then they buy back the stock. The price of the stock goes up, their wealth goes up. And they don't pay taxes on that increase in wealth. They just have more and more and more on your service, on your intellect, etc. In subsequent programs, we are going to go through a lot of the arithmetic that everybody's too busy to figure out on their own. Most people are too busy to learn a whole lot of these things. And that's what they depend on. They depend on our ignorance. They depend on us not knowing. They depend on us just throwing our hands up in the air and saying, whew, there's nothing I can do about it. But there is something you can do about it. And the first thing is educating all of ourselves. And once we do that, we can make a difference. 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to contribute. Again, 713 526-5738, extension number 1 to contribute, or go to kpft.org. We are in fund drive mode and we do need your contributions. So far, I am very negative for the day as far as my contributions for this program. We know that you're listening. We see you both on the internet as well as on air, on streams. So I ask you so kindly, please give us a call, 713-526-5738, extension 1 to contribute to the program. Please go ahead and go to kpft.org. $100 contribution gives you a Politics Done Right t-shirt, and that Politics Done Right t-shirt can actually, it also has a logo on it. You can pay that over time. Alternatively, you can go ahead and for a $250 donation, guess what? I'll take you for some coffee and we can talk whatever you want. I only have a couple minutes, so let's get 30 seconds for David. I don't know why my friends wait till the end to call. Come on in, David. How you doing?
Hey, I was just talking all this interesting little thing about these tax breaks.
Yes.
You know what that sounds like to me, Egberto? It sounds like a Ponzi scheme.
It is. The Ponzi scheme that everybody talks about isn't where they think it is. It is with the tax scheme that the rich uses. Go ahead, sir, because I only have about 15 more seconds with you.
Yeah, because all the profits are going to the top, and we get nothing. We're getting screwed royally. It's just like what guys like Bernie Madoff were doing, and all these powerful bastards, they're all doing the same thing, man.
I got you. David, thank you so kindly for calling in. I have to go now because I have a hard 30 seconds to go and the show ends. So thank you so kindly for calling, David. Hey, guys, please give us a call, 713-526-5738. Hit up option 1 to contribute to the show. For anybody who contributes after the show is done, kpft.org. Remember to select Politics Done Right as the program you're supporting. Please select Politics Done Right as the program you're selecting so that this show will be appropriately attributed to that your contribution is appropriately attributed to Politics Done Right. kpft.org. Go ahead, put your donation in there. I'll call you out later on another program. 713-526-5738, option 1 to contribute, or kpft.org to contribute online. Again, I ask you so kindly to please select Politics Done Right as the show you're supporting so that it will be appropriately supported. We have to raise $250 a day. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
If you just walk past your phone to pour yourself a cup of coffee, hold it right there. Put down that cup, pick up your phone, and dial KPFT at 713-526-5738. Your call will help keep this station going and growing. It's true, and it's just about that dramatic. Every single membership investment made in this station is important to our operations. Take a minute out of your busy day to call 713-526-5738. We're here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now it's your turn. Once again, the number to call is 713-526-5738 or give at kpft.org.
I am Susan.